Okay. So today I have great pleasure in introducing you to Frankie Goddard, who has agreed to have a conversation with me about her experiences of being a patient with von Hippel-Lindau disease. Hi, Frankie.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure, absolutely. Okay, so I wonder if we could start, Frankie, with you telling me a bit about how you came to have a diagnosis of VHL.
Yeah, so it was 18 years ago now. I was 15 at the time, and I wasn't feeling very well. I was actually very poorly at the time. I was getting headaches, nausea, sickness, tunnel vision. I ended up going back and forth to doctors about 8 times in the end. Um, they just kind of kept sending me away, saying it was viral infections, kind of never went through with anything further. It got to a point where my parents said, let's try the opticians, maybe you need some glasses, that's what's causing the headaches. The opticians looked in the back of my eyes and they saw swelling there. So the next day we were down at the emergency eye clinic at hospital where they performed an MRI scan to see what was causing the swelling. That came back that had a brain tumour. So obviously I was quite young to have the brain tumour at just 15 years old. So they tested for von Hippel-Lindau disease, which came back positive for me having it. So that was the first time that we had heard about it within my family. No one had presented with anything before me, so they were tested. And fortunately, it did come back that they didn't have it. So I'm what they call de novo, and I have just decided to have it myself.
And so, can you remember much about what that felt like for you at 15 years old? Or were you, I guess maybe you were more just concerned about getting better from being ill?
Yeah, so I mean, when you're young, you kind of just bounce back so quickly from everything. You don't really think about like impacts, long-term impacts, really. You don't really think about. So I remember that I did get better a lot quicker than I potentially would do now from something. I can't really remember whether it's age, whether it's because of like the amount of surgeries I've had. Can't really remember like the impact that it had on me then. And it's not something that I've really spoken to my parents about to kind of know. I mean, it would have been them that it would have had the biggest impact on at the time, I think, because I kind of just bounced back and just carried on with life as normal as such. I don't remember it ever affecting me and like worrying about it day to day.
Were
But
you aware at that time that it's something that could have an impact later on you?
um, from memory, from what I can remember now, I don't think I really realised the impact. I knew that there was no cure for it, and I knew that I would have it forever, but I don't think I really realised the impact that it would have on me, like on my life. And I think where VHL is so different person to person, it's very hard to know just how much of an impact it could have.
So you were at school at that point, and earlier on you were telling me that you after school you went on and went to university. So tell me a bit about what happened there.
Yeah, so unfortunately, shortly before I went to university, I did have a second brain tumour. Um, but fortunately, it was almost like my body was saying, right, that's done. And then I did actually have a 9-year gap where I didn't have any problems. I had my yearly screening and everything, but it was all just monitoring. There was nothing that needed surgery, nothing that needed acting on. So yeah, I was able to go to art. I did an art foundation at college, and then I went to university where I studied fashion. Loved it. I think we were chatting earlier, and I was saying to you about when you go to uni, there's a lot that's kind of changing within your life. you're learning to look after yourself, you're learning to potentially cook for yourself, do the cleaning, do the washing, all of that stuff. And I did actually struggle. It was maybe halfway or towards the end of my first year, I was struggling quite a bit with my mental health. And I did end up having to take a year out of uni. So I ended up taking 4 years to do a 3-year course. I think everything just got a bit too much. And I also, at the time, I remember I was suffering quite badly with headaches and nausea. So of course I was worried that I was having another brain tumour, but fortunately things got checked out and it wasn't. It was just potentially stress, or just an impact of everything going on in my life at the minute. But yeah, I was able to finish uni, and then I was able to start my job after that and get a good couple of years in before I had to have any time out, which was good because it meant that I was able to show my work, kind of like my passion for it and everything, before having to take some time out.
And so what work were you doing?
So I've been very lucky that I've gone into fashion straight away. So I am now I'm assistant buyer for F&F clothing, so the Tesco clothing brand. I started there as a trainee, and I've worked my way up. But yeah, I was very lucky to go in straight away.
Yeah, you managed to get your career kick-started.
Yeah.
You became real again. So
Yeah.
what happened a couple of years into your working life then?
So I've got to try and remember the order of everything. So it was actually in 2016 that I ended up having a third brain tumour. Kind of similar, but well, same symptoms, so I kind of knew what was happening. But got better from having the brain tumour, went back to work, but then unfortunately 3 months later I was then told that I needed to go back in for surgery. So this was actually something that I hadn't had symptoms from, and it was a pancreatic tumour that had shown up in a yearly like MRI screening. So that obviously that was a bit of a shock, bit of an impact, because that was my first experience of being told that I needed surgery, but I wasn't actually feeling ill. The 3 times before then, I'd felt really poorly, gone in for surgery, felt so much better after it. This was my first time of being told, you've got to have surgery, but I didn't feel poorly. So it was a bit weird. It was a strange kind of feeling. And obviously knowing that I'd only been back at work for 3 months, and I then had to have another 3 months off work from that as well.
Gosh. And how were work supportive, or how have they been about everything?
Yeah, so I'm very lucky that my work have been so supportive. I think that helps a lot. Like, it's a huge help. Yeah, they've just been amazing every time.
Good. So, golly, that brings you up to what age would you have been in 2016? Can't quite work it out. In your late 20s, maybe mid to late 20s, and you'd only had 4 surgeries.
Yeah, I'd had 4 surgeries. Yeah, because I remember saying that my body was getting everything out of the way before I was 30, which unfortunately wasn't true, because I have had surgery since I've been 30. But I think so much happened within the space of a couple of years. Because when I had so I ended up having to have the full Whipple's procedure when I had my pancreatic tumour. So that was a very tough surgery, and that was like my toughest recovery that I've had. But it's almost a bit bittersweet, because that is how I got involved with the charity, with the VHL UK Ireland charity, because my now husband, my boyfriend at the time, obviously he could see how much I was struggling after surgery from Whipple, so he got in touch with the charity, and there's a lady at the charity that has been through the Whipples, I think 3 or 4 years prior to me. So she called me a couple of times and basically just supported me through my recovery. So it's how I then got involved with charity. So it's a bit bittersweet. But obviously I'm so grateful that they were there to support me, and then I'm so grateful that I've been able to be there to support other people afterwards as well.
So for those of us who are ignorant of such things, can you tell us a little bit about the Whipple?
Yeah, so the Whipples, the way that I explain it, because obviously I'm not hugely technical with all the
Neither are
medical stuff,
we.
but the way I explain it is it's like they cut everything that's within that circle. So your gallbladder goes, it was the head of my pancreas, I think it's some of your intestine. You get plumbed in a different way to how you would be because of the yeah. I don't know how to really explain it, but it's basically it ends up your stomach becomes smaller because they have to take a little bit of your stomach and then just rejoin you in a different way. So that's where my recovery was hard, because it was almost like my stomach was having to start again with digestion. So that took a little bit of time as well.
Wow. And so how long was recovery, and did you feel that you came back to the sort of functionality that you had before?
So functionality wise, it's never been the same, and I don't think it ever will be the same as it was before. My weight is lower than what it was before I had the surgery. Obviously, I've had quite a big chunk of organs taken out, so that would impact, but then also you have to take pancreatic enzymes to help your body like absorb nutrients from the food, but then also to break down food when you're eating. So I think my body just isn't able to absorb as much from food as potentially you could do before surgery.
So are you able to keep your weight up, and are you able to enjoy your food?
Yeah, I can't have dairy, but there's so much more. There's so much more wonderful stuff out there now than there was when I like. How long ago was it now? I can't even think. Yeah, things have got a lot better since. I didn't realize at the time that I couldn't have dairy. That was something that I had to learn myself. So since I've cut that out of my diet, I've felt a lot better from having that. Still able to enjoy food, still able to still able to enjoy it and eat it as normal as such. It's just that I don't think my body takes on as much as it would have done previous to surgery.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience of screening? How often do you have screening, and is it like a full body MRI that you have?
So I have 2 MRIs. Well, I actually have 3 MRIs a year at the minute. The abdomen one and my brain and spine one are kept separate. They usually kept separate just because otherwise it would be too long, I think, to be lying in the scanner for. It's usually yearly that I have it, but because I've got stuff on my kidneys that need to be monitored, it's every 6 months for my abdomen one at the minute. And then there's a yearly genetic clinic that I go to where I see the genetic doctor. And then I also have my eyes photographed and checked at the same time then, and then have bloods done to check my adrenal glands for suspected pheochromonas.
Okay. So moving on to, you've mentioned your husband. So tell me about how you met and when you met.
Yeah, so we actually met sort of through Tesco. I like to say that we met through Tesco. He used to work at Tesco in store. I used to work at Tesco in store before I went to uni. And although we crossed paths like all the time, we never actually met then. And then it was at a Tesco Christmas party after he'd left, but he decided to still come to it. We met for the first time then. Got on really well from the get-go, but because I was going to university, we were like, let's just stay friends. But we did actually get together the day after I moved to uni. made it work for 4 years, so long distance for 4 years. And yeah, still together now. We've been married for 4 years. But what is it? How long have we actually been together? 15 years, I think it is, that we've been together for. So, yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. And so tell me about what it was like for you bringing up your VHL with him.
Yeah, so I struggle to remember if I actually ever brought it up or whether he just experienced it in 2016, and it's kind of like he didn't really get a choice, but then equally he's still there and he's supported me through it. And I remember his parents supported me through it at the time as well. Yeah, that was his first experience really, because the previous 2 surgeries that I'd had before them, I didn't know him at the time. And then obviously I had that 9-year gap where I didn't have anything wrong as such. So he knew about me having the yearly checkups and everything like that. But I guess VHL hadn't impacted my life as such until that first surgery that I had in 2016.
And so tell me about how you made the decision to have a child.
Yeah, so it's a very personal thing about having a child when you've got a genetic disease that can be passed down. So although I'm de novo, I still have that 50% chance of passing the VHL gene on if I have children naturally. I mean, I've had a lot that's gone on to me personally since I was diagnosed. Like I said earlier, VHL is very different person to person. So you might not have so much happen. You might feel a lot more comfortable about having children. Me personally and my husband, we didn't want to have a child naturally. So we discussed with our genetic doctor about PGD, pre-genetic diagnosis. We had a couple of discussions before they put us forward to Guy's Hospital to have an initial discussion with them, and we were told that we could have it funded, which again, I think that would be another huge impact, because it's not like, it's quite a costly process, isn't it? But we were very fortunate to have it funded. So yeah, we started on the PGD roller coaster, I call it. But we had our first meeting just before we got married in 2019, but we got married November 2019, and then of course by March 2020 was when COVID had really hit and impacted. So it kind of, our journey ended up being a lot longer than it potentially would have been. But well, to cut a very long story short, it's a huge emotional roller coaster going through IVF, and my heart goes out to anybody who has gone through it, who is going to go through it. I think it was about 17 eggs that I had collected, 11 of which were okay for them to use. There is then a 5-day wait so that your eggs are fertilized on the day of collection, but then you have a 5-day wait to find out how many, I don't know the proper technical term, but how many have grown enough into the embryo stage for them to do the testing. At that point, I think there was about 5 that were kind of looking like they were getting close. But then we had a phone call to say that there was actually only 1 embryo left that they could test, and then they could freeze and take forward. So of course at that point, I don't know, I thought, right, that's it, we're going to end up going back to the beginning. It's such an emotional roller coaster. It was then a 50-day wait to find out the genetic testing results. I was actually at work at the time. I got a phone call to say that our embryo didn't have VHL. So obviously, amazing news. again, you're going up like this because you go up, you think you're amazing, we've got so many eggs. You go down like this when you get told about the next stage. And then obviously huge high when we got told that our embryo didn't have VHL.
And then what happened after that?
So just went through the natural stages of IVF. So I can't remember off the top of my head all the time scales of it, but it all happened quite fast. I think on my next cycle I was in having the embryo transferred, and yeah, touch wood, everything has been amazing and healthy on on our first try of the IVF. So I had a beautiful healthy baby boy in March 2022. There is actually a little bit of a story. So my pregnancy wasn't as plain sailing as it could have been. I mean, I would do it over and over again if it meant that we could have Matthew. So again, it's another bittersweet part of my story. But I think I was about 5 months pregnant and I was diagnosed with a brain tumour again. Similar things, I've been having headaches. Obviously, they knew I've kept everything at the same hospital. I've been lucky that I've been able to keep everything at the same hospital, and we were able to go there for all of our stuff with Matthew as well, and all of my scans. All the doctors were able to talk to each other, which actually ended up really well because at 5 months I was diagnosed with another brain tumour. It was an emergency that it had to be operated on there and then. They wanted me to have Matthew before I was operated on, but of course I was very closely monitored. So I had Matthew under planned cesarean under general anaesthetic, which was another strange experience. You go to sleep, you wake up and you have a baby. Which is some people's nightmare, but it was an amazing experience for me. But I wasn't very well at the time. And I actually remember, so I had him on the 22nd of March. And then the day after I had him, the morning after I had him, my brain surgeon came to see me to book me in for my brain surgery.
Yes.
And he gave me a choice of 2 weeks' time or 5 weeks' time. And I said, I'm not going to be ready for 2 weeks' time. I want to be able to bond as much as I can, because I was already worried about, obviously, Matthew was only going to be 5 weeks old when I was coming back into hospital. I was going to be away from him for a week. And then it was 2 months after the surgery back home that, he was a newborn baby. So I had someone here with me every day for 2 months. I was fortunate that my family and Dean's family and friends, they kind of took it in turns to have a week where they would come and be with us for the week so that they could help out during the day. So that was a very testing time. I was hugely worried that I wasn't going to bond with him, but looking back now, I didn't need to worry because we have got a lovely relationship. But of course, it's just one of these things. It's just another thing to worry about at the time.
It's the job of a mother to worry.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful story. So Matthew is what, 19 or 20 months now?
Yeah, he's about 19, 20 months old. Yeah.
Healthy boy?
Yeah, very healthy boy. He is on the wait list to have his adenoids out, but that is hugely common.
Yes.
That I understand. So he's just a bit snotty, bless him.
Yes. Oh. So that's an amazing story and a very happy story. Have you thought about whether you would do it again?
I think we would like to. Unfortunately, we wouldn't have it funded again. But yeah, never say never. But obviously, just we're very happy and we're very lucky that we have Matthew. So at the minute, just focusing on him.
And can I switch topics completely now and ask you a little bit more about your involvement with the charity?
Of course you can.
Would you say that your involvement is both as a person looking for support as well as a person providing support? Because that's the impression I got from what you said a little earlier.
Yeah, I think so, because it's people that you can go to if you need something, if you need support still yourself. And then obviously we're there for people to come to us. I help a lot with people when they come to us with fundraising queries, as well as like patient liaison stuff. So it varies as to what you're kind of supporting people with. There's also some private Facebook groups which are really beneficial for people that have VHL, because you're able to, sometimes you just need to talk to somebody else that's been in a similar situation or in the same situation. Just have, I don't know, sometimes you just need to have a little bit of a vent. Sometimes you might be a bit concerned, and then after speaking to people that have been through it before, it makes you feel a little bit better. So yeah, probably involvement from both aspects, really. I do still definitely get a lot of support from the charity.
And is it mostly online, or do you meet up in person?
So we do support groups. The charity runs support groups, like patient support groups, probably every couple of years. Obviously they haven't been as frequently recently because of the COVID restrictions. We had one I think it was last year, and that was the first one post-COVID, so that was really nice. That one was in Cambridge, but tried to do it kind of all around the country, just so that make sure that everyone can get to at least one of them within a couple of years.
So one last thing I'd like to ask you is, you've been through so much in your life already. What do you do to keep yourself resilient?
Don't really know. Yeah, I guess I can't do anything about it. So I honestly think that having that kind of time at university, I went through counselling. I do actually think that's really helped me with how I think about things. Obviously at the time I was almost going through that little bit of a scare of having the symptoms. Did I have anything wrong? And I didn't. I can't remember all the ins and outs of the counselling that I had at the time, but it's obviously helped me with how I've started thinking about things since then. Yeah, I just tried to live my life. I've got a very you only live once attitude to life, because, well, do only live once. I think because of everything that has happened, but I'm also fortunate that I'm still here after going through all of these surgeries. It's almost that I feel lucky that I am still here, that I am still kind of like living my life as much as I can.
Well, you're an amazing lady, career woman, mother, supporter of others with VHL. I don't know how you fit it all in. And I did say that was my last question, but I have one very last question I'd like to ask for the benefit of the students who'll be watching this. What would you say makes a good genetic counsellor?
I think just it's hard because obviously you're going to have your own personal things, so it will just be work for you, but it's almost making sure that you're available as much as you can be when you're at work. What's really helped me is that having that kind of direct call to the genetic even if it's just the secretaries, for them to pass on a message, you know that it's going to get picked up straight away. Having that connection has almost given a sense of relief in a way, because then you know that they're going to support you and help you to get, I don't know if it's an MRI scan that's needed, a CT scan that's needed, they're going to help to get that organised to put your mind at rest, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so being accessible and available.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Frankie. Is there anything you want to add that I haven't asked you about?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us today. The students will be very appreciative, as am I. So it's Friday afternoon now, and I would just say have a wonderful weekend with your son and your husband. And thank you so much.
And you have a lovely weekend.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.